Hey everybody, Squee913 here. Hello and welcome to another Thoughts Behind the Wheel. Wheel. How are you? Doing well, I suppose? Good. I thought just now, I was like, I should open every one with some weird different thing like that. And whenever it comes time to actually do a Thoughts Behind the Wheel, I never plan it out in advance. So I'm always like, oh, right, some weird thing. How about I just repeat wheel a bunch of times? That'll be odd. Yeah, I fail. I know. So, how is everyone? Did I already ask that? I probably did. All right. Had something I kind of want to talk to you about. Something I wanted to flub my words about. Kind of short, hopefully. Of course, this is me, so who knows. First and foremost, I had an interesting comment the other day, actually yesterday, that I wanted to address. And yes, it's about Mass Effect 3 again. But it's not so much about Mass Effect 3, but a character problem within it. And I got this comment, and they're not the only one that feels this way, so I wanted to see what other people felt about it. Oh, also, I want to clear up, because I did have a lot of talking back and forth about the whole Geth Quarian thing. I want to make sure that everyone understands that I was not saying anyone was wrong for choosing the Geth. I wasn't at all, because I honestly don't know who I would choose. Well, I would. I would choose the Quarians. I said that, but I wouldn't blame anyone for choosing the Geth. My only beef, my only issue was people who tried to make it extremely simple, make it a very easy decision, saying, well, the Quarians started the whole wars and they're jerks, so it's fine. If that was your only reason, then you're simplifying it too much. However, I did have a lot of people say I chose the Geth because they were better military resources. I chose the Geth because, in the end, I thought about it really long and hard, and I weighed both facts and both sides, and I just went with the Geth. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a hard decision for a reason. So I don't want anyone thinking I was, telling you wrong for choosing the Geth. Now that that's out of the way. So someone was talking about how Liara was a whiny brat or whatnot during Mass Effect 3 about the whole Prothean thing. How she thought she was a Prothean expert, and then Javik came and she found out everything was wrong. She was all whiny and complaining and couldn't accept it. And Javik, you suck. And how, basically she was a crybaby. And you know what? That's not really fair. I'm curious how many people actually felt that she was like that, because that is completely unfair to give her that title. You got to look at it from this point of view. Liara has spent her entire life, longer than almost any human's career, learning about the Protheans, developing an idea about the Protheans, creating theories and ideas, like I said, about the Protheans. And then, in one day, let's say like a week or whatever, Javik comes and rather rudely points out how absolutely wrong she is about everything. And you don't think she would have a problem with that? You don't think a normal person would have problems adjusting to that? And I should point out, she didn't have problems accepting. I mean, she didn't try and deny it. She didn't do what a lot of scientists do when the lifelong theory is disproven and just try and find excuses not to believe it, or just out flat right go into denial. She completely accepted that she was wrong. She just had trouble adjusting to it. She just had trouble molding her beliefs. I don't know how exactly you say it, but she didn't deny that Javik was right, ever. She very solidly and explicitly said, how could I have been so wrong, blah, 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 blah. So I give her big kudos for that. There are so many scientists out there that their theory is disproven and they just go, no. No, she was smart enough to understand, hey, kind of irrefutable proof that I was completely wrong. But to say that she was being a whiny brat because she had trouble accepting it all is really unfair. Let's put it in terms like this. Let's say a pastor spends his entire life learning about God. and thinks that God is one way, you know, a certain type of God. He's got a certain name, he's a certain personality, etc., etc., and spends his entire life devoted to this idea that he has of God. And then he meets God, and God's a dick. I mean, you know, let's say that God is nothing like what he thought, not the same name, not the same anything, completely different personality, and the pastor realizes that his entire life has been devoted to an idea that is false. You don't think he would have trouble accepting that? You don't think that he would be justified in having a bit of a midlife crisis for that? No, really? He think he would just, you know, say, "Oh, okay, no problem. I was wrong. Let me just adjust my theory over here on my little memoir, and we're good to go." Come on, seriously. It is really easy for us to sit back in our little armchair quarterback position and talk about how whiny someone is when we're not the ones that are actually emotionally invested in the idea. We spent, 3 games kind of learning about the Protheans. She spent, 60 years learning about the Protheans? I'm sorry, guys, but that's completely unfair to call her a whiny brat because she didn't accept it. And she did accept it. She actually started writing a book and trying her best to learn everything she could about Javik. So I thought that she handled it brilliantly, like a real scientist should. Did she have some emotional problems adjusting? Of course. I was going to say human. She's not human, but she's organic. That doesn't really have the same oomph to it, does it? Well, she's only organic. But yeah, guys, don't be so harsh on her. Don't harsh her mellow, yo. Alright, okay, and one more thing I wanted to just go over real quick. I actually kind of want to ask your guys' opinions and see what you guys think about this. I've been writing a lot the past week, mostly in my Skyrim script. I had the overall story pinned out, but I've really been working on fleshing it out, putting up all the details, writing in all the characters, making a bunch of modifications, and basically giving it a lot of meat. So I've been looking a lot and thinking a lot and researching a lot on story writing and what makes good stories, what makes bad stories, my own personal views and others, and et cetera, et cetera. Which I really feel that, you know, if you're going to be serious about a story, you should go with what you believe makes a good story, obviously. Otherwise, it's not your story. But never be afraid to look at others and draw inspiration from them, and et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, here's the thing that I'm curious about. Children. Children in stories. Commonly, children are seen as a way to get the cheap sympathy vote, or the cheap. Sorry, I got a phone call. Anyway, like a perfect example was God, we're going with Mass Effect 3 again. I don't really intend to. It just fits the bill so perfectly for what I was talking about. Not the Star Child, but I guess he was. Whatever. The kid at the beginning of Mass Effect 3. You know that. You can't help me, and then I'm gonna get on the little shippy, and then the Reapers are gonna blow me up, and it's really sad. Aww. And it touched me. I was sad. I felt bad for the kid. But a lot of people got angry and accused BioWare of just going for the cheap, the calls and the stopping, calling me people. They were like saying that the only reason why the kid was there is because they thought it would get a cheap emotional jerk out of us. And I do agree that sometimes that is done, because the simple truth is that, oh my gosh, I need soda. What am I doing here? I can't go here yet. I don't have my soda. All right, guys, gotta go get my soda. I'm sorry. You have to understand. I was just doing a very complex, tightly spaced parallel parking. I'm really good at that now, by the way. And I was doing it perfectly. I was like, yeah, I'm doing thoughts behind the wheel, and I am pulling off this parallel park like a champ. And then I forgot to go get my soda. How am I supposed to go deal with a bunch of kids for 8 hours if I don't have my soda? But I don't have a problem, though. I can stop anytime I want. Where was I? Oh, right. Children is a cheap emotional heartstring pull. Yes, it could be. BioWare could be accused of it. Now, obviously, if you play the story, you find out that there's a little more to the kid than that. We're not quite sure if the kid was all in Shepard's head, or if They were using the kid to show how psychologically damaged it was making Shepard, etc., etc. But the kid turned out to have a bigger role than everyone thought. Now, this outrage was when people played the demo, and pretty much for the most part, just the kid was exploded. The kid was exploded. Aww. But I'm curious, what do you guys think? Okay, when people write children into their stories, are they just going for the cheap emotional heart pull? Because children do, it's undeniable, children do invoke a sense of innocence and a sense of happiness and something to protect and weakness. And some of the creepiest things out there are when children are the bad guy, when children are evil, or when children are destroying things or whatnot. It can make for some really creepy characters because it's so opposed to what our view of children are. And I tend to have children in my stories a lot, to want to have at least one child there who typically is like something to protect, an idea of what you're fighting for kind of thing. There was one in my Fallout New Vegas mod, Angel. She was basically, the pinnacle of what Squeeper was trying to protect in the world. Which was innocence, in a sense. And I do love to put children in there because I do feel a very strong attachment to what they represent and how much they can bring to a story. But I feel that it needs to be done well. You should not just throw... Like, for example, if BioWare had just thrown that kid in there and done nothing else with him and blew up the kid and their whole purpose was to go, oh my god, how horrible the Reapers are, they murdered babies! I would say it works. Because there's lots of people that say, oh my god, the Reapers murdered a baby! But it is kind of a cheap heartstring trick. But I do think that if children are used correctly, meaning you give them the proper amount of importance in a story that they deserve, they can be very, very powerful. And obviously, if you're wondering where I'm going with this, in Skyrim, I've written a kid in there in some way, shape, or form. Very different from Angel. I will point that out right now. Incredibly different than Angel. So don't think I'm just copying and pasting Angel. Very different role, very different purpose, very different everything. But I wanted to see what you guys thought in your idea. I personally, like I said, I personally think that children, they do have this stigma of being innocent and being something we should protect. And honestly, most people, and I would say 70% of the people out there, when they see a person get killed in a video game or movie or whatever, it does not affect them nearly as much as when they see a child get killed in a movie or a video game. And then there's 20% out there that will say that it doesn't affect them, but it still does. And then maybe there's 10% who just don't care. But I know that, there's tons of people that go, I don't care, it doesn't bother me at all. And when in reality, sure it does. You just don't want to make it sound like you do. Not saying you're that person. Not saying, I don't know, you could be that 10% of heartless people. But I do think that that having a child in some way, shape, or form, if done well. In other words, when I say if done well, they shouldn't be thrown in there just to have a child in there. And I would never do that. Like, for example, I put Angel in the Fallout mod because that's what I wanted. I wanted Spiffy McSquee to have to fight for someone's soul. Literally, it was the soul. It was the idea that Angel was being corrupted by the assassins, trying to be turned into an assassin at a very young age, and Spiffy was trying his hardest to stop this corruption. And it just wouldn't have had the same punch if it wasn't a child. I mean, it could have had an emotional effect, but the fact that she was so young and still so moldable, and so smart and pretty, in my opinion, Angel was, that made it just all the more tragic. And that's why a lot of people kept saying, wouldn't it have been funny if Angel went with Spiffy to go kill Caesar, or if Angel was a companion and helped them fight and all that stuff. And they completely missed the point. They completely missed the point of what Angel represented and what she was. Angel was the idea that there is still good and innocence in the world of Fallout. The idea that there is still something worth protecting. And that is what Spiffy was trying to do. And the whole purpose of Spiffy and Angel was that Spiffy wanted to keep her from having to become a killer, like he was, like the Hashins were, the assassins that had kidnapped her. The whole point was to keep her from that fate. Because if she became a killer, then it's like the idea that there is still goodness and innocence in Fallout was not real. That everything in Fallout gets corrupted. Everything eventually has to turn into this harsh reality that is the Fallout universe. And Spiffy wanted so badly for that not to be true. To have at least one little bit of the Fallout universe that still could maintain its innocence. I don't know if that was conveyed in the mod. And if I ever finish the mod, I don't know, guys. Maybe after Skyrim I will. I know I promised everyone I would, and I really do want to, but the Gek is so much harder to work with in the Skyrim creation kit, and to do what I wanted to do would have been so much work, maybe. But anyway, if I do ever finish it, I'll explore that more. But that was the point of Angel. So to say that Angel should run around and murder people with Spiffy was to completely miss the point of why Angel was there. And I felt that that was a proper way to use a child because you were giving her the importance that she was due, and you were not just throwing her in the story just to have a child in the story to pull on people's heartstrings. The story needs to have a reason to have a child in there. Like, for example, the one I've written into Skyrim. While it may not be apparent at first, and I don't want to give too much away, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, there's a reason. There's a very good reason to have the kid there. But I'm worried that some people will look at it as me trying to get just the cheap emotional pull. Obviously, I can't rate that unless I actually tell you why I'm using her, which is kind of against the whole point. I guess we'll just see when the story comes out how that works or not. But I'm curious to know your opinions on it. What do you guys think? Do you think that children are just the cheap emotional, hey, I'm going to pull on people's hearts, I keep saying that, pull on people's heartstrings by using a kid or whatnot? Or do you agree with me like that if used properly, they are very, very powerful tools in the emotion department? Yeah. So, anyway, that's it for now, folks. I've got to go get my soda and then go teach youngins. All right? Doodles.